Trucker Dump, episode 197. Boy, have I got some splaining to do.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Hey, y'all. Todd McCann here. Oh, well, good Lord. Wow, jeez, chill out. Good grief. Wow, I tell you, wasn't expecting that. Actually, I totally deserve that. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. First, my name is Todd McCann, in case you're new to the show. Wow. I'm a 27-year trucker. I am the author of 2 trucking ebooks. One is called Trucking Life, and one is called How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job. You can find both of those now for free, where you get your audiobooks. I'll explain that here in a bit as well. Okay, so what's all the booing about, in case you're new to the show? Well, my last show was May 6th, 2023. Yes, 2023. And I had some explaining to do. First and foremost, I have an apology to make to everyone who stuck with me through the whole podcast, always dealt with my weird schedule, my inconsistent, putting out the podcast inconsistently. Everybody was always so cool about it. Nobody ever pushed me or pressed me or said we need more episodes, being like a jerk or anything. Lots of people kidding about it, of course, because we joke around a lot, but nobody getting really nasty. And what did I do to repay that when I decided to quit doing the podcast? Yes, you heard that right. I didn't tell anyone. Well, I told certain people. I told the Slack group and I told the Facebook group, which is unfair, to say the least, because the majority of you listeners are not in the Slack group or the Facebook group. It would have taken me 5 minutes. I had every intention to do this, by the way. It would have taken me 5 minutes to put out a podcast that just said, hey, we're on hiatus for a little bit. To be continued. Not really sure how this is going to end up, but just hold on. But did I do that? No, I got lazy. Now, I guess I'm going to have to give an excuse here. It's no excuse. There is no excuse for it, honestly. Should have told you. I truly apologize to everyone that I just left hanging. Although I'm sure you've moved on with your life. I doubt anybody was, wadded up in a corner of their shower, bawling and crying because the podcast was not on anymore. But regardless, it was a real dick move of me to do. And, well, I don't curse on this show, but that's about as close as I get to it. So, because I deserve it on this one. So what exactly happened? Well, I'm going to do something that I've never done before on the show before. I'm going to tell you who I work for. Well, who I worked for, I should say. And that's because, well, let me step back just a second. The reason I've never told anybody, longtime listeners already know this, but the reason I've never told anyone and I've never mentioned who I work for on this show is because I wanted to be able to speak freely about anything that was going on in my trucking career, anything I didn't like about the company, anything I did like about the companies that I was working for, and the way my whole life was going and the way my jobs are going. I didn't want to be muzzled because I was afraid I was going to get fired for some retaliation or something like that. So I never mentioned it to anyone. So here is why I'm revealing this now. 1, I am stopping the podcast. More on that in a bit. And 2, because the company that I worked for is no longer in business. Therefore, you can see if they're not in business, they can't retaliate. And if I'm not doing the podcast anymore, no one else can retaliate either. But that does not mean I'm going to go back and reveal who I worked for in the past because, well, I'm just not going to. I enjoyed most of the companies that I work for, and I don't want them to, I just don't want to risk any of that, honestly. I don't think anybody would come after me for anything I said, because honestly, I didn't say anything super horrible back then, but, just why bother if you don't have to? So with that, let's address the end of the podcast. This is episode 197. I plan on going to 200. Episode 197 here will be the introduction of the Garmin, the long overdue Garmin reviews of the headset and the 200, the dual cup headset, and also the 810 GPS unit. Ironically enough, they already have an 820 out by now. So that's how long I've had that GPS for well over a year. I owe big apologies to Garmin for not putting that out as I promised to do. So, man, I'm just being a dick all the way around, aren't I? But anyway, that's what we're going to be doing on this episode. As for episode 198, I plan on going into a deep dive on the company that I worked for and what happened and how the whole thing went down, and hopefully talk about some misleading things that were kind of going around in the media. So I will reveal again who I work for on that episode. And if you haven't figured it out already, which probably many of you have, and on episode 199, I am going to go into my current company and talk about them a little bit. And again, I'm not afraid to mention their name because there will be no retaliation because there's no podcast and I don't have anything bad to say about them yet. So, we'll do that on episode 199. Then on 200, I figure it's just going to be kind of like a closing up, just kind of talking about the podcast, the course of the podcast, and, just putting a lid on it, basically. So that is the plan. So now for that excuse as to why I didn't let anyone know, why I'm quitting the podcast, all that stuff. Honestly, when I was going through this job change, well, before the job change actually happened, I thought I was doing pretty good. I thought everything was chill. I was just taking it in stride, taking things as they happened. And I thought I was pretty relaxed about it and ready for it. But when it actually happened, I think it kind of hit me. I wasn't, crying in a corner somewhere, but I think it just hit me because I really liked that job. I thought I was going to retire there, and it just kind of changed everything, honestly. And I was out of work for about a month while I was trying to find something decent that could replace it, which was very hard to do because, I made a lot of money a lot of money for a trucker, especially a company driver, at that carrier. And, I had to find something that was equivalent or as close to it as I could get. And like I said, we'll talk about both those companies in the next two podcasts. So anyway, I just kind of petered out, and I didn't even have really the motivation to put out a 5-minute podcast saying, hey, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but for now, it's just kind of on hiatus, which again was not cool of me in any way. I'd be pissed if I were you. I'd be booing just like they were in the beginning of the episode. But, I don't even know how many people are listening to this right now. How many people bothered to stay subscribed? I don't know. So anyway, as for the end of the podcast, let me just say that I was considering just putting everything over on YouTube, which I do have about half the episodes up on YouTube right now. I think I went up through episode 100, and they're all like in video form, so they're all accessible there. There's no video, there's no face except for the first one where I'm introducing myself. It's just audio in video form. So it will be there, and that's what I was planning on doing. Just put everything on the video on YouTube and just getting rid of the podcast. But then and that's because of the cost involved. It's not super expensive, but it's more than I wanted to spend on keeping a podcast up and running and having to worry about my website, which was a bit more complex than it could have been. And, always having to keep it updated and worrying about hackers and all that kind of crap. I didn't want to have to worry about that. So, I was just going to move everything to YouTube. Well, I decided against that. Actually, everything is going to be on YouTube eventually. But I also just moved everything over to a different hosting service, which was a lot cheaper. It's still going to cost me about $100 a year, but that's nothing, I think, because honestly, I'm proud of the content that I put over this 11 years. I think it's got really good information, especially for new drivers who don't really know what they're doing when they first come in. I've had lots of emails from newer people saying, thank you for the podcast. It really helped them out, get their career started and everything. So I didn't want all that to just go away. And honestly, when people are looking for a trucking podcast, they're probably not going to think to look on YouTube. So it may have never been seen or heard, I should say. Heard. So I decided to just keep it open for a while. I'm making enough money that $100 is not going to kill me. But that's just what I decided to do. As for the books, I did decide to just drop those. What that was causing was, I was making a little bit of money from them and I would have to file taxes on those. And honestly, it just wasn't worth it. It cost me more to file the taxes with the small business forms and stuff than I actually made with the books. Now that wasn't always true with the advertising money as well, but once that dried up and the books, they sold a few, but not a lot, and it was just more of a pain in the butt than it was worth, honestly. So what I'm doing now is offering those books for free. I still think they're good resources, and if you've ever thought about getting them, just didn't want to fork over the money, here's what you do. Email me, truckerdump@gmail.com. I will send you the Kindle version. I will send you a PDF version or an EPUB version, both, where you can open it on your computer or open it in your on your iPhone or your Android phone. I will, obviously the Kindle version's in there, and I'll also put a link to the audiobook. So you'll be able to download that from Dropbox or Google Drive, wherever. I don't know where I'm going to have that stored yet. But if you send me an email, truckerdump@gmail.com, and tell me you want all that stuff, I will be happy to send it to you for free. You can also go on to like Apple Books, Barnes & Noble. I believe all of those have it for free. Smashwords, I know, has it for free. But unfortunately, the biggest bookseller is Amazon. But they're being stubborn, just like they always are, and they will not let me sell it for any less than $2.99. I was just going to pull it off there, both books, but honestly, most people look for their audiobooks, or not their audiobooks, their ebooks on Amazon and Kindle. So you take them off there, you'll lose most of the audience. Now that $2.99 that they charge for each book, honestly, I'm probably just going to not report it on my taxes. It's going to be such a small amount, honestly. And if I hardly make anything from it, I just may drop it from Amazon altogether. But you, the listener, I wanted you to have a chance to get these books for free because I bored you with talking about them so much on the episodes, every episode, that I wanted you to have a chance. Hey, if you can get a little bit of information out of them, if they will entertain you for a little while, like I said, the audiobook is 9.25 hours long. If you can stand listening to my voice that long, have at it. I'll be happy to send you all this stuff. Now, please don't email me afterwards, ask how to get it onto your device or whatever. That's what Google's for. I don't know your individual device. I don't know what app you're using. So I'll be happy to send it to you for free, but you're on your own for tech support. Okay? All right. So with that, I guess that sums it up pretty much for this episode. Like I said, there will be links to the reviews of the Garmin headset and the Garmin dēzl OTR810. I'll put those in the show notes, and I'll put those, you'll also just be able to find them over on the YouTube site. So there you have it. Now, for these next 3 episodes, I'm going to try to kick them out pretty quickly. And honestly, I'm paying for the website monthly now, and it is really expensive for me for not making any money for the podcast. So I'm going to really try to knock these out real fast and just wrap this puppy up. So for now, I guess I'll just say thank you. Sorry again for leaving you out in the cold like that. Not cool. I should spank myself, or maybe I'll get the evil overlord to do that for me. All right. So until the next episode, when I reveal who I worked for and talk about them extensively, I guess I'll just say, drive safe and stay out of my way.